Hey everybody, JJ here, back again for another Wednesday of Zoom networking. Really excited about this call. We got one of my really good friends on. Just a heart of gold, just a really great guy. But don't get him mad. He's a pretty powerful TC guy. He's out of Pace One Sub 2 community. He's started as a student, became an investor, just an all-around great guy. Now a successful investor. My good friend, Mr. Jay Holder. Jay, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, JJ. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. Hey, really quick, for those that don't know you, where in the country are you located?
I am located in the Memphis, Tennessee area.
Man, that's a beautiful area. And that's a hotbed for real estate right now, too. That much I know for a fact.
Yeah, it's a great way. It's a great place to invest right now in our general
Yeah.
area in the Mid South.
And it's been that way for quite a while. I mean, I know I've been hearing about Memphis for a few years now. I think it's one of the best kept secrets. So we'll see how long that lasts. Hey, so really quick, man, I really wanted to talk to you about for a second. It's about how you got started. We met through Sub Two. You're one of the rock stars in Sub Two, highly respected, very well known in the Pace Morbius community. But what did you do before? I mean, have you been around real estate since you were a kid, since your teens, your 20s? Was it a family kind of a thing? Was mom an agent? If not, what were you doing in those years from your teens and your 20s if you weren't doing real estate, or were you?
Oh no, so I actually came up through the healthcare sector and then went into IT. So I'm actually a chief information security officer by trade. I started in real estate over a year ago. Like you said, I started at Pace Morby with the Gator program. Within like the first week and a half in Gator, I started doing people's paperwork for them because I understand paperwork. I do multi-million dollar deals in my W-2 at the time. And so it was very easy transition to moving into helping protect people's finances in Gator deals, PML deals, whatever kind of transaction they were doing at that time. From there, I went into Sub 2 like a month or two later and started working with my now business partner, Jennifer Cortez at Finish Line. And we just started working. I did all the transactional side. She did all the Sub 2 side. And then we started cross training and growing our company together over the last year. So we just hit our year mark in May.
Well, and then of course things just sort of took off, exploded from there. Hey,
Yes, sir.
your topic today is onboarding your transaction coordinator. Um,
Right.
we have some people on the call that are actually transaction coordinators and that experience. I'm sure we have people watching on YouTube that are transaction coordinators. But we have probably some new people on the call and people that are watching that might be new to real estate. For those that aren't aware, what is a transaction coordinator?
Ah, good job. So transaction coordinators, the way I explain it is there's a few different ways to explain it, but one is we're the hub. So we're the center point of all transactions. We should be the communication channel. We should be the ones that are reaching out to borrowers, sellers, buyers, title attorneys, anything and everything that can be done through the transaction should go through us. We're not lawyers. We're not real estate agents. By most, we do have some on our staff that are real estate agents, but when they're working as a TC, they are not working as a real estate agent for you, so they can't act as one. And so we don't necessarily draw up promissory notes, deeds of trust, or paperwork like that because that takes one of those privy to the transaction. So you as a person, a lawyer, or a real estate agent need to draw that up. But outside of that, we're making sure all the paperwork's right. We're making sure everybody gets what they're supposed to get. Everybody has all the security in place that they need that we can do. And then once we close it out, we have things like post-closing services and things like that in our company where we'll help you with transferring your insurance. We'll help you with transferring all the mortgage stuff over to you, things
Wow.
like that
So you guys do it
to
all.
try to reduce due on sale. Obviously, we can't say nobody can ever say, oh, you won't get it, but we can help reduce it by doing a systematic way of doing things.
So I got two questions for you. Um,
Mhm.
One, let's start with this one. You mentioned the phrase due on sale, right?
Yeah.
Those of us in the real estate industry, the investment community are familiar with that phrase. But again, for those that aren't, what is due on sale? What does that mean?
So due on sale, it's in every real estate contract you've ever signed, deed of trust note, with an actual commercial lender. And what it means is that when that deed transfers, they have the right and the consideration to call for the full amount that is owed to them at that time. Now,
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean they have to. So that's two different things. They don't have to do it. They might not even know you transferred it. Usually, if it's a big one like a a Mr. Cooper or an M&T, they're not going to know that it got transferred. If it's mom and pop's community bank, they may know, right? Because they don't have as many files. And so what that does is that allows them to come in and go, hey, you owe us 200 grand at this time. We want all that money now. And again, we just got back from Puerto Rico. We did a meetup over there and we did a full hosting with Jerry Norton and them. And we got to talk about this. And one of the things that people were like, well, good. If they don't call it in the first 6 months, then I'm good. No, they can call it at any time during that loan. So you could be year 15 into a 25 years left on the loan term. They can call it then, which hopefully you refied into lower interest rate by then, but they could call it by then. And so it's one of those things like being able to minimize how many people touch the mortgage, how the mortgage payments are handled, making sure the correct insurance is in place, and how it's put in place are some really big keys to reducing the risk of due on sale. Now, due on sale, it's like a bad phrase, right? It's not that bad. I mean, if you do get it called, we also have the ability to help you get around the due on sale. And the number one is we call the bank and ask them, like, is there a reason you're calling this? Like, all the mortgages have been paid, they're not behind. Like, what would be the purpose in starting this back over? That would be how we would start, and then we would progress from there to more technical avenues that we would do to keep you from losing the property or having to pay all the money up front.
Okay. Again, there's so much to cover. And you kind of hit it, as you're saying, when deed transfers, and to be a little bit more clear, when a property is being sold from one person to another, that's when the deed transfers, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So if the person that owns a property is selling the property and they have a loan on that property and they're selling that property, that's when that loan amount can become due. That's what they mean by due on sale.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. And so that's how we ideally an investor wants to avoid that clause if they're acquiring the property. Is that correct?
If they're acquiring the property subject to the existing mortgage, then yes. If they're a cash buyer, they don't care. That's part of paying for it. But if you're taking it creative through, like I said, through subject to the existing mortgage, which means you are going to become the bank for the mortgage. So the mortgage will stay in your name. The deed will come to me as the property does. And I continue to make your payments in your name. Then that's when you don't want to do on sale. But outside of that, that's normal. And then there's, seller finance and things like that. But that really doesn't matter because usually in a seller finance, the property is free and clear anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Getting back to the things the transaction coordinator does, they do so many different things. But if there's a problem, paperwork, there's an issue with some of the parties involved, is it the transaction coordinator's responsibility to resolve this? Or do they just process things as they come along in a natural course of order? And then if a problem arises, is it probably, or is it the investor's responsibility to say, okay, well, now I've got a problem. Now I have to fix this.
Yeah. So our job is to keep the train moving and to keep the train on tracks. If we find problems, we should say, hey, there's a problem here. You need to fix this. What I tell my investors, and this is what I go over with how to onboard is, I'm going to keep you in all communication as an FYI, unless I say, hey, I need you to take care of this, or I need you to provide an answer or make a decision. It's pretty much so you can keep track of where everything's going. Now, because we're not lawyers, we're not real estate agents, and we're not a part of the actual transaction, I can't approve things like HUD statements. I can read them. I can tell you where I find problems. I can make sure they line up, and they never do on the first round. I can make sure they line up before you approve the final one to match what the contract is going to say. But then after that, you have to read it and you have to approve it. You have to read title commitments. I'll go through the title commitment with the title attorney or the title company, and then I'll tell you what I see wrong with it, or if I don't see anything wrong with it. But I still have to have you read it, give me that email or written communication that says, hey, yes, it looks good. Because at the end of the day, you are the investor. It is your job to make sure your investment is good, right? At the end of the day. But my job is to make sure that you have all avenues and all protections and all things to make a sound decision.
Let me ask you, what does it mean when one hears, I'm talking for the newer investors here, the experienced investors know this, and we have transaction coordinators on this call right now. why would an investor need a transaction coordinator?
So here's what I tell a lot of people, especially with our company and me personally, is you're going to get one, two, three transactions a year, maybe, and you're going to be happy. You're going to love it. You're going to be on the phone at least on a sub two. We'll just use a sub two. You're going to be on the phone at least 12 hours per sub two deal, right? So if you're doing one or two deals, maybe you don't need it from a perspective of time, right? But when you're doing high volume, like a lot of our clients do, 12 hours per deal is a lot of time. That's just calling with title company. That's not including if you have an attorney, if you've got a seller, if you've got a seller and a buyer's agent, which is a file I just got done with. When you have all these people, you have to coordinate all that. And so you're not, that's not you, right? Your job and what you're good at is making money. And how do you make money? You go and get the next deal. So instead of worrying about these deals that are in flight, go find the next deal. Let us handle it. That's the great thing about TC is number one. Number two is they might not understand all the complexities of a deal. Again, you see one, two, three deals. We're seeing on average 75 deals a month. So there's other nuances that we're picking up on that people are doing in the investment community that you wouldn't necessarily know because you haven't seen this before. And so we have a wealth of knowledge because we're always learning. We're always learning, reading the rules on usury laws, reading on securities, things like that to keep abreast of what actually is happening out there. And so, again, as an investor who's doing one, two, three, four deals a week or a month or a year, you're not seeing that. You're just worried about your deals. And then the third thing you were asking, what is a TC? What I've always told people, we can go way back to when I started, we're the airbag. Like a lot of people say the glue, we're the airbag. Whether they keep you from hitting your face on the glass because you are emotional when you get a deal, especially if you're in the funding side. You're emotional when you get a deal. You really want the deal. You're just go, go, go. And you may not be thinking clearly. And so by clearly, I mean, you might just be wanting the deal so bad that you're not reading all the red flags, right? And so that's where we step in and go, oh, let's hit the brakes a little bit so you don't smack your face. Let's go through these 8 things and show you where I see problems. Again, you may still want to do the deal. And if it's in our risk registry, because our company has a risk register where we look at it and we determine if it's too high risk for even us to do, we'll help you do it and we'll help you be as secure as possible. But we make sure you agree and understand there is a huge risk that we found with these deals. So that's everything that's the big stuff that we do.
Wow. So, being really clear, you dropped a lot of gold nuggets right there. When one brings a transaction coordinator on to work with them to assist with their transactions, to support the process of flow of work coming through someone's business, this is what's referred to as onboarding a transaction coordinator. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, we always hear about people getting help from someone else. Quite often, it seems that we'll call the transaction coordinator commonly referred to as a TC. That a TC always doesn't need to live in the same state as the investor. Is that correct? They can even be in a state outside. Say I'm in California. I may have a property in Ohio, but my TC doesn't need to really live in either one of those states. Is that correct?
No, that's correct.
So how does one go about onboarding or even finding one? Is it word of mouth? Is it references? What's the best way to go about onboarding a transaction coordinator?
So, I mean, I think for the best part is we look at in all of our marketing and all of our analytics, we see that word of mouth and reputation is one of the biggest things when it comes to being a TC. So when you're looking for one, of course, people go to the groups and they search who's the best TC for this or that. And you're going to see 100 people get listed. And I'm not saying they are the best. I'm not saying we're the best. I'm not saying anybody's the best, right? But there's a lot of things that get factored into that. And somebody, when you're get recommended. And so what I always tell people, and I've put it on Zooms before, is take those recommendations, then you need to search those recommendations. And so I just say, make sure that, they're a fit. And then again, just because they were good for somebody doesn't mean they're good for everybody. Like some people do not like to work with me because I'm blunt and I tell the truth. I tell the honesty, and that rubs some people the wrong way, and that's fine. That doesn't, bother me any. Because one of the things that I tell people is I work for the asset. I work for the lender's money or I work for the seller's house. I don't care who paid my fee. That's in my service agreement. That's who I work for. So I've had plenty where I tell the seller something because I answer honestly. and they get upset and the buyer gets upset with me and like, I paid your fee. And I'm like, that's awesome. I still work for the seller. Don't care who paid my fee. Because that's who has the tangible thing to lose in an investment. It's money or it's house or vehicle now, because we do cars too, or all vehicles. So that's the way it is. And so you have to just be really careful when you're onboarding people. When I say onboard your TC, like you got to make sure you're giving them all the information they need. You got to make sure you're giving them the space to actually do the job. Because if you're gonna micromanage your TC, then you should have just TC'd the deal yourself. Because if you're gonna be in every step of the way, you're kind of, you know what I'm saying, you're slowing down the process, you're making it harder. I've had plenty of investors, and they're still investors of mine. They still work with me because we've been able to go through this scenario where I'm like, look, these were the problems, right? And they've answered title on an email. Remember, you're copied on all emails. They answered title on email. Well, title did what they said and messed up all the paperwork, and we had to redo it. And so it took 2 more days longer. So we had to get an extension, and they had to do all that. And they were upset at first. I was like, look, I told you from day one, and I record all my calls. I told you from day one, do not answer unless I say, hey, I need a decision. Hey, I need an answer. One of those 3 things. And you did it. And so it slowed down and caused the title work to be redone. And it was no big deal. It was 2 days and they didn't lose any money, but it was just, they really wanted the house right then for some reason. But they're still a client of mine. I think I've done 27 deals for that one client since then. So it was great. And then when the new people, it's really one of those things like, I'm like, look, you're going to be antsy. You're going to be ready to answer. You're ready to do this. Just work through me. I don't mind you talking the title, but if you do and it causes a slowdown, I don't want to be held liable. And that's really a problem with lending deals, right? Is the timing. Buying a house, if you push it a week, it's normal. But lending has to be done when it has to be done, especially when you're doing like EMD. Has to be done when it has to be done.
I know that in real estate, there's only one kind of transaction. Actually, there's many types of transactions. Multifamily, single family, commercial, creative deals. Now with TCs, do certain TCs focus on one kind of transaction or one kind of industry, or is it kind of a blanket skill that applies to every kind of transaction?
So no, I mean, there's definitely those spots where you need to be focused. So for us, right, I was the transactional coordinator. So I did everything with any kind of funding, EMD all the way up to double closing, gap funding. That was mine. And Jennifer came from sub 2 because she was in sub 2 before me. She did all sub 2 and creative finance. But then we cross-trained and then we start building our company. So now we actually have departments at our company. We have ones that handle transactional. We have ones that handle creative financing. We have ones that do post-closing. That's all they do. And right now, I'm the only one who does mortgage methods and vehicles in my company. So I'm training people to start a vehicle vertical as well.
Heidi Tesla, you are on with Mr. J. Holder. What's your question?
Hey, Jay. Nice to see you.
Hey, Heidi.
I have a question just for some of the newbies when they're just starting to work with a TC. Do you have any recommendations for like specific questions to ask someone when you're just starting to work with them? So if I, as a lender, was going to work with a new TC, like what are some you told us kind of how to let you guys do your job, but like if we're just meeting someone for the first time or just starting to work with them, what are some key questions maybe we could ask?
Absolutely. So I treat it like a job interview. So anytime I do a networking call where when people are asking questions, I just go into it like I'm giving out a resume of how we do things. So I would always ask the things that are important to you, regardless if it makes sense or not, right? So ask them how many deals they've done. Ask them how many deals have closed. So how many deals you've done and how many deals you've closed are 2 different things. Ask them how many deals they've had that have went bad during the deal and then post the deal, right? And then was their investor able to use what they did to take care of that, right? So I can give you investors where deals went bad later down the road, and they've been able to take the documents that I've helped them with and made sure they had, and they've been able to fight their cases or foreclose or do whatever they need to do. And then ask them about the communication style. Again, not everybody's communication style is going to match yours, right? You're going to want to know stuff, and not you, Heidi, but in general, you might want to know stuff. You might want to know stuff. You might want to know stuff every single day, right? My communication style is not that way. You're going to get at least 3 updates a week unless there's an update that comes in. But again, you're going to know the same update I do but you're still getting an update
Right.
from me because you're on all the conversations. But some want an update literally every day or every 4 hours when there's nothing that's changed. And so I tell them, like, if that's you, I'll help you, but I'm not your TC because we work so many files that if I had to stop and update everybody every 4 hours, we would never get anybody fixed. And so that's one of the things we work with is like, make sure they fit you. Again, I tell people all the time, don't ever look at price first because people do. And we're all investors. We're going to look at price, but price is a bad one to base your TC experience on because we're not expensive, right? TCs are worth what they charge you if they're good. So again, I look at it like the Ferrari and the Honda thing, right? Like you don't walk in Ferrari and ask for a Honda price. And if you go to Ferrari and they offer you a Honda price, I'm going to wonder what's wrong with that Ferrari, right? I'm like, something's not right. And so that's the same principle is, you go to, when you're looking at pricing, it's make sure that they fit you first. Two, they have a good track record. And it's not just by some random person saying, oh, call this guy. It's more about doing what I said, take the top 5 that you've seen called out and then go search them in all the groups. Search them in Gator, search them in Sub2, whatever you've got access to, and see if you see anything negative on their reputation. Those are important. That's important. And then the second thing on negative or reputation, right? Let's sidetrack that is what was negative. Like, I think I had one negative comment where somebody was upset that I didn't take their deal. And I'm like, well, that's great. I could defend that. But if I took your deal that was too risky and your deal failed and you said Jay messed my deal up, I can't defend that. Regardless if it was true or not, perception is reality in our world. And so I don't need that negative. So that's why we have a risk register in ours to say yes or no if we'll take a deal. Because again, I could defend not taking your deal while it was risky versus trying to make your deal work and it failing if I knew it was risky, right? And so I hope I answered your question. I threw a lot at you, but yeah, that's a bunch of questions.
You did. I mean, those are great questions. And also just to make sure like personalities mesh too, right? Because that's huge. If, like you said, if you're wanting somebody that's going to be really crazy and want an update every 4 hours, that's tough. Or if they have a deal, like I'm a very transparent person, just like you. Like if it's not a good deal, tell me it's not a good deal, especially if I'm new at it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's huge, actually, right? Because some people wouldn't. Some people may not be right up front with that. So yeah, we appreciate that.
And that's the way. And that's the way I cover everything. Like I treat everything because I'm an investor. So I look at it, what I would do, how I would invest in it, if I would invest in it. And I always tell people, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not giving you advice. I'm just telling you Jay's investment opinion on what I would do in this deal. And if you say, well, what if I want to do it anyway? I'm like, well, it didn't hit high enough on my score, but you know the risk. So reply to this email that you understand the risk and it's on you if something happens, and then I'll help you with it. And then I'll help you afterwards if something goes wrong with it because I'm that guy. Not everybody does it. That's not a TC thing. Like a lot of TCs don't necessarily they don't stay in after closing because there's nothing for them that they can control. And I usually don't either unless it's like helping you get a hold of somebody or, hey, how do I file foreclosure? And I can put you in touch with like a lawyer in that state because I know lawyers in almost every state. So things like that will help you do that.
What are some things that cause you to when you're reviewing a transaction, what are a couple of the red flags that tell you that, hey, we're not going to take this deal?
So when I start looking at the investor themselves and how they're responding to things and how I can see them where they're trying to be shady. I've had this habit where they're shady. They're not responding to everything. Or when they respond, it's like one word answers versus answering my questions. Title companies that I can't call, but I can email them, which makes no sense, right? That I can't find. I had one investor where I was like, something's not right. And we were pretty far in the deal. Title was fine. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to call them. No answer, no voicemail. And we kept on. So then finally we sent an email and said, hey, we're going to send somebody by your office because he happened to have a friend that lived near it where they said they were. And they're like, oh, no, you can't do that. We're not in the office. And it's like, how are you not in the office on a Wednesday? Like a random Wednesday. It's not a holiday. It's not, anything like that. Things like that. So, and then when we look at like the title commitment and we see you're supposed to be in like a second lien position, but there's 4 liens and 2 judgments. It's like, wait a minute, like you can't fund this. And of course they're like, well, they're going to do it and they're going to pay me out of selling this other property. And you try to explain to them that's not secured at all. unless you have the collateral against that other property. And they're for whatever reason they say, oh, the borrower can't do that and blah blah. So I'll be like, you know what, I can't work this deal because there's no way that I can see you're secure. The deal might be great, the deal might go through. So I don't necessarily say that the deal's bad, and I don't say that the person's bad. I just say there's no way I can see you being secured in that deal. And those are a few. And then other ones are like when they pop up wanting money today. I tell people we won't do those deals. Like if you need it today, it's not going to happen. Because they had, if it's an EMD, they had at least a week to get it. If it's a PML, they had a month to get it. So yeah, it's not going to happen for us, but I'll recommend you somebody. I will recommend good TCs, but I won't do it.
Do you see that happening? I mean, how frequent is that when they wait till the last second and they've had plenty of time? Is that something that's infrequent, or is it more frequent than you would like to see?
EMD is more frequent. And the reason is, it's contract, right? It's because they don't write their contracts correctly. You should not do a 3-day EMD, like unless you have a gator, right? So I know Heidi's a gator, right? So if I know Heidi's got $100,000, and I don't know that, I'm not saying that's what she's got, but if she has $100,000 and I know, hey, Heidi's done 4 deals for me, Heidi will fund any deal I ask her to on an EMD side, right? If I know that. And again, I'm not saying she will, I'm saying if I know that, then I can go do a 3-day EMD because I could call Heidi and go, hey, Heidi, I need $5,000 EMD tomorrow. Here's your documents. Go ahead and wire it for me. And it'll be okay, right? But it's a lot of times it's when you find those deals and they needed it. They say, oh, we need it by tomorrow. And then I go look at the contract. I'm like, wait a minute, this contract was signed 8 days ago. And the contract says it was due 3 days after signing and it's not there yet. And now they're out of inspection period. Because what a lot of people will do is they won't send their EMD in. And they'll wait until right at the end of inspection to send their EMD in. And my favorite one is, that's when it's going to go hard, right? And so my favorite one's when they go, oh, but they're going to buy it. I'm like, great. Do they already have the loan documents? Do they have approval? Like, has anybody talked to the lender to make sure? And they're like, oh, no, but they said they'll approve it and they'll give me a personal guarantee. And I'm like, great. So you're going to go find them to get your money back. That's going to be fun. Don't get me wrong. Definitely get personal guarantees on everything. But it doesn't make sense to do it when it goes hard in 2 days. That's another thing. Like I've had investors tell me, oh, we got 2 days. And I'm like, so you're going to spend the wiring fees and you're going to spend the stress and do all that for a day? Because really you should be canceling the day before if you're an investor. You should be canceling the day before inspection period ends. And so anyway, so it's things like that that make no sense. And yeah, it happens more than you want to know, JJ. And it's always the same reason, right? Our lender pulled out at the last second. Always. That's like 90% of the time. That's what I hear as a TC. Like, our lender pulled out the last second. I'm like, well, now you got to be careful, right? And so that's why when we come in, we look at it. And when the first thing we do, especially on those, I go, that's awesome. Can we get on the phone with the seller? And this is how you know if the borrower is like good, right? Can we get on with the seller? No, you can't do that. Oh, well then, okay, we're not going to fund. If they say, yes, I can, cool. Then I can get on with the seller and I say, hey, we're coming in late to the party. We're going to be funding, blah, blah. Can we file an extension on the EMD date in the inspection period so that we have time to do our due diligence? And worst case is the seller can say no, and we still don't fund. And this is me. Now I'm talking to me as an investor, but this is what we do as our TC too. Because again, I told you I do it as an investor. And so if they won't, then cool. I keep my money in my pocket and I go to the next deal. If they will let me, then I know that there's something here. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll fund it as long as they've signed the addendums to extend first. And then I'll work with my team and my investors and be like, hey, this is okay to fund because now we've gotten you a new 7 days and you're good to go.
Wow. It just seems all the intricacies that are involved there are quite a landscape to maneuver. Mr. Troy Caudell, you are on with Mr. J. Holder. What's your question?
I just had something real simple for basically the new investor. Is at what point along the way do you recommend somebody looking for a TC that if they don't have one to go to already?
Yeah, so I always recommend, and if you, and I think they do it now in the Gator group, is they recommend you connect with TCs as soon as you get in. Go ahead and start building that relationship, right? And making sure that you know that person and you know that you can call them. I I think that's important. I do think that relationship is everything. Again, like I've talked to a few people that are on this call before even being on this call with people, and having that where they know you, they know your name, they can see what you're doing. Because once you've had a relationship, I'm going to be looking right at what Troy is doing. What's Troy posting? How's Troy acting? So that, because I'm going to see that, and I'm going to be like, I've talked to Troy and Troy wants me to work with him, but I got to make sure Troy is a good person I want to work with, right? And same principle, you'd be able to see me. We're friends on Facebook, Instagram. You'll be able to see what content I'm putting up. You'll be able to see my social presence. You'll be able to see when people are tagging me, things like that. And so it'll help you learn what I can do as a person, and then vice versa. And then so I would say from the beginning, but for sure, as soon as you get a deal, at the minimum, as soon as you get the deal, call one. Don't wait don't go try to open title and all that by yourself if you've never done it, because you might open with the wrong title company just because you found the title company local to the seller, or the seller might say, use my company. They might not know how to do creative, and that's more of a headache for you. And so I would say at a minimum, as soon as you get the deal, go to a TC.
To bounce off Troy's question, I know so many investors are out chasing the deal. What's your buy box? What's your lending capacity? And it seems to me that TCs are really, really busy. So do they have time to say, okay, I'll get to, I'm the first one to preach about build a relationship. I'm the first one to get to know people first. What's the best way, for people to do that with looking at their workloads, what I'm looking at, how busy the TCs are? What's the best way to go about building relationships with TCs?
I mean, honestly, it's when you're in the groups and you see them, just reach out to them on like Facebook or Instagram and say, hey, so this happens to me every single day. I got 2 today. Hey, I'm new to Gator. I see your name out there. We're told to connect with TCs. Do you have some time to network? And I'm always like, I absolutely do. And I have a calendar link that's just for networking. It blocks off a certain amount of time during the day, or meetings during the day for me to meet with people and just get introduction and just talk. Use that. One thing I will tell you, I've had some where it's like, oh, I wanted to talk right now. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. Because like you said, I've got literally 14 open files right now.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of my game plan. So let's talk here's the times I can talk. And, depending on how that conversation goes, I might say, look, I normally don't talk after hours, but we can talk at this time if that'll work for you, and I'll talk that day. But for the most part, like if somebody's like, I need to talk right now. Even with my clients, like I get all the time, they'll call me, I need to talk right now. I'm like, look, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back. It'll be like 45 minutes before I can get to you. And so, yeah, so I would say just reach out to them. Most of us TCs, like we will make time to talk. The good thing about my personal stuff is I have a team, right? So I have a team. There's 4 of us that lead the company, and we have a total of 17 people right now. So
wow.
if you really need to talk right now, I might say, look, I can't get on the phone, but I got a team. I got somebody who will talk to you. Let me connect you, and I'll connect them through Facebook on Messenger. Say, hey, JJ needs to talk to somebody. Hey, Chanel, can you handle JJ's deal and talk with him? And so, we'll pass it along to help people, because that's the idea. And that's why we have a team. When I was a solo TC, it was horrible because I was trying to get new clients, but then I had a ton. And so I was trying to do all that. And then I was trying to go on vacation, or I was trying to go to the movies. I can't tell you how many movies I paid for and missed with my wife and kids because I was working in the lobby on my laptop. But now, like having a team, I could just go, hey, somebody take care of this for me. And they're able to do it. And the same's with them. They can send me. I was in Puerto Rico for a week. I think I touched 2 files while I was there just to give updates, and then I was good. Because my team took care of the others. So
you talk about being experienced now and having a team, and from when you were new. 2 questions. What's the best way for a new TC to go about either 1, building their business, or 2, jumping onto a team?
Absolutely. So what I tell people all the time is there's 2 things. When I first started out, we didn't have top tier TC. So top tier TC is amazing, right? So we were learning on the fly. At least with top tier, you're learning how to do all the deals. You're learning from the best, right? Molly and Ashley and their team is amazing. And then when you get out of grad, you pass the exam and you've got the certificate, it's now time to get clients. And so what I tell a lot of them, and I do this a lot, is there's 2 tricks. One is you find the deal, then you find an experienced TC. So you can go on the TC group that we have and you can post, hey, I'm doing this deal. Would anybody mind JVing with me? And so you partner with them and learn through the deal. I've done tons of those with people. Or for us, we decided to help even more in our community. And so we built an internship program where we bring in new TCs that may have worked a file, may not have, but need help. And so we bring them in and we put them through a 6-week like internship program training where we help with like mindset, we help with marketing, we help with business structure, we help with systems. You see all the stuff we do. We're really big on the marketing side or networking side. We work with showing you how to network correctly and how to get your name out there. And we have you work files with us and we pay you for working the files. So it's a lot of ways that you can learn, and we're always trying to do it. I think we're our final class, our last class is graduating this Friday, I believe is the last day. Some of them are on here, so I believe that's correct. And then we usually take 2 weeks and then we'll start up another program. So we'll post it out in the top tier TC group and have people sign up. We interview them just like a job interview. We make sure they understand everything they're going to have to do with us to be successful. And then we go from there. And it's really good for both them and us at the end of the internship program. They may decide they want to work with us, or we may decide we want them to stay with us. They say yes, they come on our team. They may decide they don't want to work on our team, and that's fine too. That's awesome. We will help them any way we can. And then some, believe it or not, this happens. Some realize they don't want to be a TC at all because they don't want to be a TC. They don't like anything about it. So they just move on that way. So, yeah, that's the best ways to start to building.
Is there anything you look for in particular? Say you've got so many open spots in your next, training session, and you've got more than, double the amount of people that are inquiring than you have spots for. What do you look for when you're looking to bring someone on as an intern? Are there any qualifying things other than maybe just, that they've completed a program or something? What do you look for someone who's going to be a TC?
So I didn't interview. I interviewed for the first class, and then we had, we rotate on who's running. And so what I look for is, can I work with them? Can I talk to them like this? Can I have a conversation? Do I feel, and this is hard to get, right? We do 2 interviews. It's hard to get this, but do I feel like they can take the criticism, constructive criticism, right? Never negative, constructive criticism. Can they show up? Are they go-getters? Things like that. Because like I said, we pay for our interns to work. We pay them for their files, but we also pay for all the systems. And so, we spend 6 weeks paying for all our systems that if you're not a go-getter and you're not there ready, it's kind of a waste of money on our side for the systems. And so I really do look for that. Like, do I feel like they are? And we can be wrong, right? We can be wrong. But we've only been through 2 classes because it's the first one was 4 weeks and we decided that wasn't long enough. So now we do a 6-week class. Or not class, internship. And so we'll be doing our 3rd one, and we just keep getting better. Like, we started with no structure. We were just bringing people in, and funny story, we brought in 12 and 7 of them are still with us as people, as TCs on our team. They're still with us. And so obviously that worked. And then we started putting structure together, and then we start, from this TC class or this intern class, we're learning more structure and more things that we want to put in place to help the next batch. And so we just like to help people. Me, Jennifer, Jason, in January. We're always out there and we're always answering questions and always willing to hop on calls to help anybody. So that's kind of one of our.
She's wonderful.
That's one of our core values is help. Like, that's our job, is to help people.
Yeah. She's been on a number of our calls, and she's just got a great personality, wonderful dynamic, just very pleasant to deal with. So I see why she's a core person of your team. Hey, she
was my first, believe it or not, she was my first business partner, JJ.
Good pick.
Not even as a TC. We were business partners before TCing. So, and now she's on my team.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So you've talked about what you look for when you're looking for, an intern. But as an investor, what does one need to look for when not just onboarding, what's the process, but what should one look for Should they, talk to many different candidates? It shouldn't be the first candidate. I mean, obviously, experience is one thing, personality is another thing, number of transactions. But what are some other things that one should look for that maybe are not coming to my mind that you're more aware of being someone who's in this field every day?
Like I said, it's that, have that 15. I personally know within a 15-minute conversation whether or not I would be able to talk to a person long term. I'm not marrying them, right? Obviously, I didn't pick my wife after 15 minutes, but I would know if I would be able to get on a phone call, be able to understand what they're saying, be able to deal with them. And so that's kind of the thing is, right? Ask those clarifying questions and those deep questions when you start asking about how they deal with communication, how they deal with issues, turns, problems. Start hearing how they're responding and see if they mess with your personality. Because at the end of the day, that's really what you should go on. And then you should see their passion. And this is one of the things, and I don't like to talk about myself. But this is one of the things that I've been told is like, I never tell people to use me ever as a TC. I even tell them they don't have to. I just say, use somebody that's good, use somebody that's going to get you to where you need to be, that's going to protect you. If it's me, awesome. If it's not me, awesome. I've got plenty of people who went the other route because they did go based on money, and those deals are not good. Some have been posting about them recently, and they'll call me and go, "Hey, I did this," and I'm like, "Well, here, let me help you." I'm not part of that deal, and I can say this way: I didn't get paid to do anything on that deal, but I jump in to help them because that's what I feel like I'm supposed to do. Right? That's what I'm told by God. That's what I'm told by Bible, that I'm supposed to help people, and so I jump in, I help people. But again, not all TCs will do that. I'm not saying that I'm better than them or they're better than me. It's just their business model, my business model, my personal business model, and then my company business model, right? And so I would say just make sure you can talk to them, make sure that they're going to listen to you. So like I always drop little things just to see if they hear me, to see if they'll repeat it back to me through the question. So like I'll leave a nugget, and then 2 minutes later, I'll ask a question that I gave the answer to at the beginning, just to see if they're actually listening to me. And so I do that. I do that when I'm bringing on JV partners in real estate deals. Like I like to make sure we're going to hear each other. We're actually going to hear and not just be there, but hear each other. Because I think, again, that's why a lot of people break up is in the industry, is because they didn't actually they looked at the deal and not the person with the deal. Because I think people are more important than any kind of real estate deal.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, that's what I would say, is make sure you can mesh with that person from a conversation perspective. And that's going to be hard, right? Like, that's why I said pick the top 5. I would be trying to meet with every single TC, or else you're never going to get a job done.
Sounds great. Brother, you dropped so many freaking gold nuggets today. I think people, if they're looking to onboard a TC, you've definitely covered some of the things one needs to look at. Hey, but I want to thank you for being on today. I got 2 last questions for you. If people want to follow up with you, whether they're looking for a TC, whether they want to become an intern as a TC, what's the best way to reach you? Would it be your MySpace page? Is it your TikTok? What's the best way for people to catch up with Jay Holder?
Facebook obviously is the easiest. And then if you just want to email me, it's jay@finishlinetcservices.com. And then you can always text me 901-654-0794. Please put your name and something about what you're looking for. I get random texts that just say hi, and I don't answer those.
Oh,
So please, and don't call, just text me, because like I said, I might not answer if I'm busy. JJ knows, he's called me. If I'm busy, I'm like, I'll call you back.
And that's one of the things I tell people all the time, especially as far as regarding Jay, everybody. If you're going to call somebody, text them first. Let them know who you are, so that when you call them, they know your name. And don't say, "Hi, this is Fred. I'm going to call you." Text them your first name and your last name, how you met them, how you're aware of them. Are you both in Gator? Are you both in Astro? Are you both in some, you're in the same state. What are you looking for? Give that person as much information as possible, so that when you do reach out to them, they're fully aware of who you are. Jay, we've got Eric with a question here in the chat. And of course, his question is, again, what's your number? And for those that are watching on YouTube right now, Jay's number is 901-654-0794. And make sure, guys, text him first. Get with your first and your last name. what your question is, what you're inquiring about. So he's got a little bit of a heads up when you call. Again, just don't reach out and go, "Hey, got your number, can we talk?" Or "My name's Bill." Really, there's more than one, there might be more than one Bill in the world.
Yeah. So I played high school, college, semi-pro football. Then when I was done with that, I started doing strongman. So I used to compete in like not a world strongest man, but that same scenario. And then one day a friend in the gym said, "Hey, come do my sumo wrestling competition." And so I did, and I won gold with no practice. Then I got invited to Atlanta, won gold there. Then my training partner was like, "Hey, maybe we should do nationals." And it was like 3 months out. So I trained, won nationals. So
Wow.
I'm a two-time national sumo champion. Went to Taiwan and fought. Then I fought in an international contest here on US soil. I was the top placing heavyweight in the last 15 years for America. I got third. Um, and so,
Impressive.
yeah, I loved it. Now I'm old. I'm 41, so I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I quit doing that like 6 years ago. But it was a good time. It was I like hobbies. I have a lot of them to keep the time. Now my hobby is my career, right? So it's doing this, doing real estate, and trying to grow generational wealth. That's my hobby.
Well, I think that's fantastic. You and I got a chance to meet recently in Orlando, and just a pleasure to meet you face to face and shake hands and get to know you. You're just, an absolutely kind, genuine, real person, extremely nice. And just for those that haven't met you, don't let the sumo wrestling photo intimidate you. He's a great guy. So really want to thank you for being on. I got one last question for you. I always talk about, networking. I'm a networking guy. I always talk about the importance of building relationships and being visible on social media. As someone who deals with investors from all over the country with a wide variety of types of transactions and fields of expertise, and I'm sure people from multiple education groups that experience, um, there are investors coming to the investment community of, say, Sub2 or Gator, all these education groups, brand new investors coming every day. We have experienced investors coming every day to
Mhm.
these education platforms that have quite often never used social media before, or they've used it, but not for real estate investment business. For the investor, whether they be new or experienced, what is the importance of social media? What is the importance of networking via social media to the success of someone's business?
Absolutely. So when you look at it, like to me, social media for us is how back in 1990, when you had commercials come on during your favorite TV shows, right? They weren't the watered down commercials we have now. They were lots of great commercials because they needed to get the word out there. Same thing with social media. It's your commercial. It's who you are. And I hate it because I do not like posting on social media. I'm not a big social media guy. Like if you go back and look before I cleaned my profile up to make it public, I really didn't post anything but my kids. And it was just to share with my mom and them. But now I make posts about, my knowledge and things that I see. And I do a lot of public service announcements in the groups because I do think it builds your reputation. I do think it shows favor. And it shows people what you can do, what you have done. It's a walking resume in this day and age, honestly. That's what it is. And, I was with somebody in Puerto Rico and can't tell you who, and I can't tell you what they talked about, but they're very prominent. You'll hear about it. So I don't want to do that because I won't do that. He's a friend of mine. But it's all about how you leverage social media to do everything. I mean, Hunter Thompson talks about that in his funding, right? In his raising capital. Like the first thing you do is put it on social media because that's how people are going to know who you are. But if I come to you on social media and I say I'm looking for $100 million raise to buy this, you're go, who's that guy? Or if Grant Cardone does it, you know who that guy is because he's all over the place. So,
Yeah.
who are they going to invest with? Me or Grant? They're going to go with Grant. And so I don't blame them. I would too, in that aspect. So yeah, it's your resume. So it doesn't have to be a lot. You don't have to post 9,000 things, but post about what you're doing. And it doesn't always have to be about real estate, right? Like, I post about my vacation. I post about stuff like that because you're also a person. You're also real. And so that people like to see, hey, he's not just a robot, he's a real person. Because like JJ said, there may be an interest that I have that somebody else has. Like, I like to barbecue. I do barbecue competitions for fun. Maybe an investor likes barbecue and is like, hey, we can connect that way. So it's
Or
really
you're
important
a
not
family man, you got kids.
I do. Yeah. So it's one of those things like maybe maybe they like what you like. And I don't know, I invest money and I like to know that I'd like to give money to people that I know one's going to protect it and two has some of the same values I do would be great.
Yeah.
So, things like that. So I would just say you got to do it. If you want to be an investor, it's one of the things. It's all around.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're hitting a bunch of things I like to say all the time is you don't market your business, you market yourself. People
Yeah.
do business with people that they like. So we need to market who we are so people see what the commonality we have, whether it's our pets or our interests or our family. So, no, you're
Well,
right
I
on,
always like
brother.
yeah. Sorry, Jay. I always like it to like Pace, right? Pace or Jerry. They don't need to market. What do they need to market for? Everybody knows who they are. Everybody, and they still do it because that's how they build their relationship with their groups and they keep building their investors. So yeah.
Well, I really want to thank you for being on. Hey, one last little question here. It kind of relates to the first one. I've got a networking group. I'm trying to teach people about that all the time. For the new investor or even the experienced investor, what's the importance of joining a group like mine, maybe to build their business?
Because again, if you don't know how to do it, get with somebody who does. The cool thing about and I joined JJ's group. The cool thing about JJ's group is he doesn't charge for it, right? And he helps you with everything. So he knows what works, what doesn't work, kind of like how a TC knows all these ins and outs because we see 1,000 deals, right? He sees a ton of things and talks to a ton of gurus, and he has a ton of them on his podcast. I think you do podcasts, what, twice a week now?
Twice a week. Yeah.
Yeah. And then inside of that, he's also, I mean, before this podcast, JJ and I've met like 4 times on Zoom to go over stuff because we wanted to help each other and then, networking in person. So it's really good to find somebody that's, like I said, go look him up, go see what he's done, go look at his digital resume, and then go, hey, why would I not join his digital program, right? To learn how to market it and not have to worry about it. Because there's plenty of gurus out there. I'll charge you $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on how to do exactly what JJ just did in 30 minutes.
For free.
For free. Yeah, exactly.
For free. It's funny. People ask, why do you do this for free? I'm like, because when I was new, there was no one to help me. And they all wanted me to pay. I was like, there's got to be some place where we can go just to help people because that's what we are. We're just looking for people just like us. And, part of my thing, not that I want to make a big thing of it, but is, creating good karma. I like to say I build my business by building relationships. What can I do for the new investor? Let me show you how to build your network. What can I do for the experienced investor? Let me bring you on and promote you, let everybody know who you are. But whichever path I'm taking, I'm focusing on building the relationship. And that's, I think, the first and foremost. Hey, brother, I really want to thank you for coming on today. If you guys are watching on YouTube right now, I want you to like Jay's video. Please hit the little like button there. Please put where your takeaways are, what you found valuable in the presentation today. Even if that's how can I improve to bring you a better product? What can I do to be a better host? Bring you, is there a topic you haven't heard about that you want to hear about? What can we do? And again, if you want to connect with Jay, his number is 901-654-0794. And you connect with him on Facebook. And again, Jay's Facebook, you can go right there. It's Jay Holder. Got the sumo wrestling photo there. You can message him on Facebook. And again, his company is Finish Line TC Services. If you want to connect with me, click this blue QR code here. Takes you to my group, allows you to register for my group. And again, I've got my website up here on my Instagram. If you guys are on the call right now, don't go away. We're going to talk to Jay for a couple more minutes. If you guys are watching on YouTube, again, look for both Jay and myself. We're going to be out there in the world of social media. Jay, we'll see everybody out there on Instagram and Facebook and everything else, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Jay, thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for watching today. And if you're on the call, stick around. We're going to go to some breakout rooms. Guys watching, thank you so much. See you soon.